Hello there, beautiful family. Sending infinite love and blessings your way, wherever you might be on this wonderful planet, in this powerful new moon portal that we're traversing. I'm just going to start by letting you know that you may hear some wind, the element of air in the background, which I'm very, very grateful for here in Bali at the moment. It is so hot, and since I came back from the Netherlands, I've been overheating a little bit. I had an amazing journey, as some of you will know from my post in the temples at Nusa Penida last weekend. And in preparation for that journey, I completed a fast, and that definitely removed some of the heat from the body. It's still very hot, so I'm grateful for the wind, but it may create a little bit of background noise. So I'm tuning in today because I wanted to check in and share with everyone about a really specific frequency of energy that I have been working with and dealing with, and its location is in the solar plexus. I mean, we are always, the solar plexus, in the Andes we call this our Cusco. Cusco means the center of centers. So a lot of you will have heard or have been to the city of Cusco, and that city is actually named after the center of centers, the umbilical center, if you like, of the Incan and the pre-Incan Empire was Cusco, which is Cusco, and it's also our center in the solar plexus region. This is a very, very, very powerful center, and I know a lot of you will be familiar with the traditional Vedic chakra system that we work with. But in the Andes, instead of working with those 7 energy centers, there are those 7 energy centers, yes, but we also have what's called pokpos, and pokpos are like eyes or bubbles or belts. They're otherwise known as the belts. When we refer to them as belts, they're called chumpis. And the belt of, or the pokpo for our Cusco, for our naval center, is known as Yankai. And Yankai is our complete and total unconditional service to life, to our cosmic mother, to our cosmic father, to our beloved Mother Earth, our Pachamama. And in gratitude for being given this precious blessing of life, this precious gift of life that we've all received, in our Aini, in our sacred reciprocity, whether we're conscious of it or not, we're always in service. So we're always, just by nature, in service to our planet and in service to our brothers and sisters. Now, as I say, we're in service, yes or yes, but what makes the difference is how conscious we are of being in service, and that can take many different forms. But what I'd like to talk about today is being in service of transforming hoocha, transforming heavy energy. So the Cusco, or the Yankai, the pokpo of the solar plexus, is an area that never sleeps. It doesn't stop. It is working, it is digesting 24/7, just like the intestine is working. The stomach and the bowel are the only organs in the body that never actually rest. So the other organs, when we go to sleep, they have a period of time where they can rest and reset. But the digestive system is always working, and it's not only digesting food, although during this last period, through, whenever there is anything big going on, but I'm talking about there is something specific that has been super specific over the last week to 2 weeks in the month of May, I would say, since the beginning of May. And for me personally, I'm acutely aware that even in my dream state, I tend to witness my dreams a lot. Very, very aware that in my dream state, I'm often dreaming for other people. And a lot of my students will tell me that I come to them in dreams with messages, with whatever. So I'm super aware that I do that. And I'm super aware that, especially if my energy is the frequency is very high and I'm very electrified, that the solar plexus are working even more during the night and all day than they would be. And many years ago, I was sitting on top of a mountain in Peru called Muyawixa, and I was sitting on that mountain and I could hear this whirring of a machine. It was like a munching, hum, 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 like this munching of a machine happening. And I'm like, where is that coming from? And then I started to feel it in my belly, and I realized that in my solar plexus, I had what I jokingly called a hoocha eating machine that was on 24/7, and the heavy energies were arriving to me from all across the planet, from everywhere. They were from people that I knew, from people that I didn't. They were especially arriving from people that were moving through heavy processes. They were extra especially arriving from people that were shooting, barbs or arrows at me for one reason or another. And they were arriving to the Costco, and I was constantly churning and digesting this energy. And basically, I was spitting it out or offering it as light, like this, right? So, rom, rom, rom. Now, when that process is conscious, that's exactly what we do. We call it huchamikwi. It's literally taking on the heavy energy consciously, digesting it, and then offering it as sami, offering it as light. It's a very, very powerful and empowering practice, and it's something that we all have the ability to do. However, when you are feeling vulnerable, when you are feeling tired, when you are feeling run down or not well, that process becomes primarily unconscious, and we all have a capacity. We have a capacity as to how much we are able to take on, transform, and liberate. And sometimes we are just full and we can't take on anymore. And this is where it becomes vitally important that we call on the support and the help of our guardians and allies, being Pachamama, being the mountains, being all of your luminous beings that work with you, the sun, the moon, the sky, all of the beings and the elements of nature, and ask them. You only need to ask for them to help you to transform and transmute this energy. That's what they're there for. Because remember, nothing goes one way, so as they are there in service to you, so are you in service to them. So what I've been feeling in the solar plexus, especially since the beginning of May, is it's like they are constantly trembling. It's almost like it's even beyond butterflies. It's like a muscular, when you get a twitch in your eye, it's kind of like this. It's constantly on. It's been quite difficult for me to drop my breath into my solar plexus. So if I try and take a breath and expand that solar plexus region, which you can do by imagining something like a baseball or a grapefruit and breathing into that, the solar plexus have been very tight and it's been very difficult for them to open. And what happens when our solar plexus lock in like this, because they've gone into protective mode, or because they are just processing so much coming at it from so many different directions, and I'm not even talking about what's yours. 95% of what you feel when you wake up in the morning does not belong to you. It isn't yours. You're picking up on the collective, and it's really helpful to know that, because sometimes it can feel very overwhelming. What's wrong with me? Why aren't I moving through things? La-di-da-di-da, all this stuff, and then you remember, oh wow, actually I'm here in service. And my Yankai, to be in service, means that this center of mine is always on alert, and when it's needed, for those of us that are able, we will go into a period of really strong digestion of all of the heavy energies. So that's what's happening. But the solar plexus, or this area, the stomach region, is intrinsically linked to our mind. It's like our second brain. And if you think about the intestines, it actually even looks like a brain. And this is why if you've got digestive stuff going on, then it can, like SIBO or chronic irritable bowel syndrome, candida, parasites, any kind of digestive disturbances at all, it can affect the chemistry of the brain. It can lead to anxiety, to depression, of course the fogginess, exhaustion, all of that. It's all a gut-brain connection. So it's super important for me that we have an awareness of what's happening in our solar plexus, in our digestive center energetically, that we do what we need to do to clear ourselves out physically. I've been on a candida parasite kind of, not cleanse, although there has been periods of cleansing, but diet for sure. Since about last September, I've cut out virtually all sugars. I don't have fruit except for berries. I love fruit, but it has been necessary for me to really pull back on all of those things that can feed those microbes and those organisms, because all of those microbes and organisms also have a consciousness, and they're affecting the way that you think and feel as well. So if you're struggling with anxiety, with lackluster, with depression, with overactive thoughts, with thoughts that don't feel like yours, yes, you're transforming stuff from the collective unconscious. That's happening, absolutely. And secondly, you need to look at the gut biome and start doing stuff to clean up. So it's, as you know, holistically and shamanically, we work at things from all angles. It's not just one part and not the other. Everything begins at the level of energy, and then because of that weakness in the energetic field, it is then able to manifest on the physical level. So we need to tend to the physical level as well. So what to do about moving this energy and about freeing up the solar plexus? Because also, if you do have these microorganisms out of whack in there, that they also will give you a feeling of like fluttering. If you do starve them of their food, then you can, and maybe take some herbal antibiotics like oregano oil, garlic, mimosa seed extract, grapefruit seed oil, those kind of things, wormwood powder arco. Those things will kill these microbes off, and you'll also probably experience some die-off. But we really, what I feel, we really want to tend to the center energetically as well, because if we don't, we are very, very susceptible to being taken out, because this is our center. You know, our heart is the center of our feeling, but everything enters first actually through the Cosco, through the solar plexus. It comes through the solar plexus and it arrives then to the heart to be expressed as emotion, or it goes down into the womb to be felt as life force energy, but it arrives to us through that center. It's kind of like a camera lens, if you can imagine it opening and closing, as to how much energy it lets in, and that's something that, as I said, we need to be conscious of. So for me, it's really important to get into those solar plexus each morning at the moment and clear them. Clear any stagnant energy that's in there, any feelings of nervous tension or anxiety. If you don't do this, you'll become very exhausted. You'll find that you're just taking on too much and you're wiped out, and you can't even think straight. So one of the simplest and favourite things that I love to do is just to sit or stand in the mornings, first thing, and really drop your roots down into Mother Earth, right down into the crystalline core, into the womb of Pachamama. Drop your roots all the way down. You can do it while you're sitting here with me now. Feeling those roots going right down into her core. And then as you take a deep breath in, breathe her healing love, light and energy into the solar plexus. Take a deep breath in and expand them as much as you can, and hold the breath and push the solar plexus out so that you're expanding them. It might feel uncomfortable. And then as you breathe out through the crown of your head and send that light, send your light, those tendrils of light, those roots of light up into the cosmos, to Father Sun, to Grandmother Moon. And then breathe that light in from above into the solar plexus. Hold it and allow that light to permeate into the solar plexus, holding the solar plexus pushed out for as long as you can, and then down into the earth. And then I like to do 3 rounds of what's called Kalabati breathing. If you do yoga, you'll know about this. It's a snapping of the solar plexus. So you probably can't see my belly, but you only focus on the out breath. The in breath takes care of itself. So it's like this, or Bastrika breath is the other word for it. It goes and you pump from the solar plexus. You can put your hand there and you pump from the solar plexus, and I do that about 30 times, and then I let it all out, and then I breathe in and I hold my breath and I push the solar plexus region out, and I let all of that energy and light gather. Now you might feel a little bit lightheaded as the energy starts to dissipate and move. It's okay, don't panic. The energy that you create from that will work its way into all of the tight nooks and crannies, into the crevices, and then as you breathe out, you release all of the heat, all of the irritation, all of the energy that's been stored, and I do that 3 times. I also work with the energy in my hands, and I imagine that my hands are being illuminated by the sun or warmed by the fire, and I use the heat of my hands to put over the solar plexus and to guide and direct the energy around, just working with the energy where you need to loosen it, where you need to move it, breathing while you do it. And the important thing to remember is that we never flick energy off. We're transforming. We don't ever want to be giving hoocha to Pachamama or giving hoocha to anything, because nothing goes one way. So if you get rid of your hoocha, it has to come back to you somewhere. So you only ever want to be transforming and liberating energy with light, and that's something that we'll go into at another time. So I hope that is helpful. If you're feeling the big intense energies, if you're feeling the big intense waves, tend to the solar plexus, to the kosko, to the hoocha mikwi, the digestion of heavy energy, and work with a thing called salmon chikwi, which is what we just did, which is receiving light. And the light will help to ground you, it'll help to transform and to clear, but it's something that I would recommend that you just give yourself 5 minutes at least every morning of doing this practice, bringing yourselves back to center. Okay, beautiful ones, hope it was helpful. I love you. Bye for now.